the things that we're actually, building on top of the treasury that we do seek to build, these structured products that we can then roll out to start to bridge the gap for people in that are not crypto native, right? And start to build things that can translate the efficiencies of blockchain and financial services to those folks with also, start to break down, the high fees and the lack of true yield that you get in a bank account that we're currently seeing.
Yeah, I mean, I think crypto, it tends to live in this like silo, right? And it's really important to bring in professionals from, a bunch of different audiences into the space. And I think that's what we're doing a good job of right now, with perspectives like yours, right? To come in and actually shape something that actually makes sense. But, it's actually interesting too. You kind of mentioned you have a history background, and you got to know where you came from to know where you're going, right? And that's a big part of this as well. And why, advisors like you and, the 30 that we're bringing onto the team, help in a big way there.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. But your perspective, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I take it for granted because you've already told me that, and for the wider audience getting to hear it, because I feel like today the problem with, trying to solve some of the problems that you envision solving, it just doesn't work from either an expense. I can't believe that we're talking about sending remittances back. That's actually more expensive than Western Union, right? That's amazing, right? Like that people are actually proposing that with a straight face. And obviously you guys are not, you're actually trying to solve it to make it pennies, not dollars or hundreds of dollars, in that respect. And then, all of the utopian folks, again, I don't want to knock them because we're actually standing on their shoulders, but the original kind of crypto OGs, right? They were truly, especially like in the Ethereum, after Bitcoin, right? They truly were about democratizing finance, access to the masses. But the problem is that's not really happened yet, right? And I don't mean that as a knock. It's actually up to, companies and initiatives like Standard to go do that. And that maybe that goes back to the point of, why I joined, is because I actually see that as obtainable here, where, 99% of the ones that say they can obtain that don't, because they're building, like even Lightning, right? Like Lightning was a great thing to try to facilitate payments. But again, who wants to make a payment with Bitcoin, right? Like Bitcoin's just like this speculative thing that's gonna be worth $200,000 one day, or then one day it's gonna be worth 100, like that kind of a thing. So the products that Standard will build that will actually help bridge some of these concerns, because I live in, one of the richest areas in the country, and I drive to, in the past, now they've even moved, right? The Golden State Warriors. I would drive to a Warriors game. You have to drive to East Palo Alto, one of the poorest areas in the country. And you always know, and I remember this living in Manhattan, when you're in the bad neighborhood, I hate using that term, but is when you see check cashing places. Right. When you see, because the true, nature of why we have cycles of poverty is because folks that are either down on their luck or were just unfortunately born into, poor families, don't have bank accounts. It's staggering to know the percentage of people that don't have bank accounts, and you can't do much without a bank account. Right. There's a lot of movement here in San Francisco to solve the homeless problem. And, someone asked me for my advice, and it was some serious people were asking me for my advice. So I was like, okay, I have a great chance to kind of have my voice be heard. I said, you have to solve the homeless banking problem first, right? Because if you want to get homeless people to have an apartment, they need to be able to have a bank account to facilitate, paying the rent. Like they're not going to pay rent in cash, and they need to be, especially if they're going to work in a place and earn, minimum wage. They need a place to store it, not take 20% of it as check cashing. Like I for one would think if we did one thing at Standard was eliminating the check cashing industry, I would say we should get the Nobel Prize in economics and peace simultaneously, right? Because I feel like that is the check cashing places. And don't get me wrong, they're fulfilling a market need. Like they are evil people, but in essence, it's not the check cashing people's fault. They're just responding to incentive. That's capitalism, right? Like in essence, the situation that creates the need of a check cashing industry, which is basically the banking industry and the way that it operates today in this society, if we eliminate the need for a check cashing industry, because if we eliminate the need for very, very expensive international remittances industry, that's all we do, I would say, boom, right, a wild success. And then, as I said, there's a million other things you guys want to accomplish as well. So.
Yeah,
yeah, no, definitely. I'm really we never thought about this before, but to call us like a hybrid of the two worlds, I mean, that's really incredible, and that's extremely accurate. I think we're working with the regulators, trying to bring people from that space onto our advisory board, right, so that this can be around for a long time for people to benefit from this use case, right? And so as people are going to be around a long time listening to this, I guess I have a question for Aaron and Martin as far as like what's going on, what's up next, what are we moving on to as Standard?
Yeah, I mean that's a great question, Jared. Everything that we're doing right now, bringing on people like Steve, bright minds, think about these hard problems, especially problems that affect people not only in our backyards, but there's global issues that are similar to the lack of bank accounts for the poorest individuals in our society in the U.S. Right,